People ask me questions all the time about business. In fact, just yesterday, I was talking to a medical doctor who has this idea. He's been to India, he's been to uh, India and Pakistan, and he saw them using a type of app in the medical industry there, and he wants to create the same thing here. And his questions were relating to business, but what I found was that there's a lot of questions that are common between so many different people. And so what I decided to do was to formulate all of that into a course, my BSB course, the Business Startup Bootcamp course, which is basically me answering in a very detailed manner all of these questions that people ask me. But today, I want to give you a summary of that BSB just in a question and answer format where we get to ask some of your questions and give you the answers. But interestingly enough, my son, Zax, who's here with me, is also curious about those questions because he's an entrepreneur, budding, aspiring entrepreneur also. So, Zax, welcome, and thanks for all the questions. Let's fire away. What are your questions? What do you need to know about business?
Okay, first, we walked in here and I saw the title of your video. I saw you working on the notes, and your title is "You Can't Teach Business." And then within the first 5 minutes, you mentioned that you have a course teaching business. Isn't that a bit of a contradiction?
Yeah, it is. It is a contradiction, but it's not a contradiction, right? See, I just contradicted myself again there. What I mean by this is business is one of those things that you can learn the the basic knowledge, the basic do's and don'ts, but to actually master it, you just need to get going. You just need to get started, and you need to start running your business. And I'll give you an example, right? Let's take something like love. Before you fall in love with someone, a person can tell you, okay, this is what it feels like. This is what you do. You give your partner gifts and a ring, and you show her affection and things. But nobody can explain to you what love truly is until you actually experience it. It's the same with something a little more practical, like riding a bicycle or riding a horse. I can give you all the the do's and don'ts about riding a bicycle, for example, but there's no way that I can teach you how to balance on a bike. I can't
Right.
conceptualize that in any kind of words. So business is like that. I can teach you the basic skills, the basic steps that you need to do to get started. But to make a success of it, you have to basically get started and run with it. You know why? Because business is not the same for any two people. As much as you and I are father and son, we might start the exact same business. You start an online store, and I start an online store selling Legos, for example, since we got a Lego car there, and we both are doing the same business in the same way, but it's going to be different. It's going to be different for you, it's going to be different for me because I have certain inherent qualities and traits, you have certain inherent qualities and traits, certain aspects of your personality, certain aspects of my personality, which will be different. And how we approach these businesses will be different. And we even if we both become successful, it's almost guaranteed that we'll become successful in completely different ways.
Right.
But I can't teach you that. I can teach you the basics, how to get started, ideation, market research, etc.
Right. Right.
But actually doing it is your own personal journey. And that's what I mean by you can't teach business. It's just too, it's business is all about experience. It's about risk taking. It's about making mistakes and then correcting your course and moving forward.
So it's a journey. It's a constant journey, and it's been a long road for you, especially. I remember being 9 years old and seeing people come and learn computers in our backyard. So take us through like your major milestones, the major events and milestones that led us to this point, this knowledge that you currently have.
Yeah, okay. That's a good question. And interestingly enough, that medical doctor I spoke to yesterday, he's in a similar place right now, right? He hasn't started yet, but he's got an idea. So I started off with an idea, and that idea was the most difficult thing for me because I had absolutely zero experience with running a school. My idea was to run a school, a computer college, coding school, whatever it is, whatever you want to name it. So I had no idea how to run something like that. And I had a background in business, but in retail business. I mean, my dad had electronic stores. So I was from a very traditional business background. And the idea of a college, a business that runs, um, you know, that is a school, that is an educational institute, or something completely new. What made it worse is even though I grew up with a businessman, my dad, I I'm not a businessman in the strongest sense of the word. I'm a software engineer and I'm an educator, right? I'm a I can say with confidence I'm really good at those two things. I'm like very good with software and I'm very good with education. But when it comes to business, I was probably the weakest son, for in terms of business for my dad, and so that's why he told me, you are more of an academic, so get into academics. So that was the starting point for me, and I wanted to paint this picture for you and for you because I want you to understand that business doesn't come naturally. It didn't come naturally to me. I saw my dad. I experienced him growing up, but it wasn't something that came natural to me. What came naturally from the time I was 10 years old was coding and then teaching. So that's the first thing. And that was my starting point. The next part was, the next major milestone was just getting started. Honestly, I don't know why, I don't know how I got started, but I got started. It took a lot of courage to say, hey, you know what? I've been thinking about this and researching this and learning about this for what, 2 years now? Let's start.
Right.
So that was the major milestone, getting started. The second milestone was actually getting a customer, right? So we started up this little, you probably remember this or not, this little computer school in our backyard, in the little granny flat there, and it was looking so smart. And I was convinced nobody's gonna come, because
Right.
I mean, who's gonna come to learn computers in somebody's backyard,
Yeah.
right? And this was in Johannesburg, where you got Wits University, UJ, and all of that. So we said, right, okay, let's put it on, and we put some classified adverts. That time the web and WhatsApp and all weren't big things, and lo and behold, people came. So that was the second milestone where we got our first customers. Third milestone was, within a few months, my salary and my income from my business were already equal. In other words, I was making as much money in my backyard business than I was in my job, and that's what prompted me to leave my job. So that was the third major milestone, and then it's been milestone after milestone from there. There's been so many. There's just been so many milestones. I mean, the one other major one was when we got accredited, right? When we got accredited by the South African Qualifications Authority, and this was because, for you guys out there, um, my school started off to train people who were already graduates and to put them into the workplace. So, in other words, we started off as a finishing school for software developers. But as our business started to grow and our reputation started to grow, we got more and more school leavers, people without their undergrad or without their first degree. And so they started coming to us and approaching us and saying, well, we want to study with you. Do you have any accreditation? And so that's why we managed to get ourselves accredited, which, by the way, we are now accredited with the QCTO, which is quite a big thing for us. So we just hit another major milestone yesterday. But because the market sort of suddenly grew, we had to adapt to that. Now IT Varsity was no longer a finishing school. It was a fully fledged, fully accredited institute of education. major milestone. And
Right.
one last milestone. Okay, I have to mention this one. When we closed up campus and we went fully online. See, all the time adapting to the needs.
Constantly. Yeah.
So we were driven by these needs, but we were also consciously aware of them and we adapted as the needs arose. Because around about 2017, 2018, we realized that having a campus in town, and we had a beautiful campus, right, in Durban, but it was limiting. For every 100 queries that we were getting, only 6 or 7 were in Durban, and the rest were from all over the world. Didn't make sense. You can't expect people to come down and spend a year from, I don't know, Zambia and Kenya and wherever
Right.
our students are from. And so we adapted to that and we went fully online. And now IT Varsity is fully online.
That's cool. That's really cool. Um, when you started off, you obviously you had a passion for coding and teaching, so it made sense for you to then go into this industry and start an online training. We train coding, we train various other things, but it started off with coding, and while that's your passion and it worked out, I don't really prescribe to the perception that do what you're passionate about. How do you choose what industry to get into? There's so many options. There's so many various options and if you're doing it just for passion, well, you're testament to the fact that you're not doing coding or teaching most of the time. There's business management that you have to do. There's staff, there's training, there's finances, there's meetings. So, how do you go about picking what to invest basically your life into?
Huh, that's a good question. Look, there are different approaches to choosing a business idea. My approach was it was to build on my passion, which was coding and teaching. So I combined those two passions and I ran with it. I'm not saying that this is going to be true for everyone. It's not necessarily true for you. Like you said, you don't subscribe to that idea, which is fine, right? And a lot of people will tell you that's not the way to go. But for me, it worked, and that's why I say, coming back to your first question around you can't teach business. I can teach you what was my approach, what worked for me, but I can't teach you to do it exactly like this. It's like making cupcakes, right? I can teach you how to make cupcakes. You can make cupcakes exactly as I'm doing it, and in all likelihood, they'll come out the same. If you follow every recipe and every step and everything that I do exactly to the T, we should come up with cupcakes that are identical and indistinguishable from each other. Now, with business, unfortunately, it's not that straightforward. It's not like that. So for me, that's what worked. I started with my passion, and I started with what resources I had at hand, right? So we had the little granny flat there that was lying empty, which was nothing more than a playroom. We took that and we converted it. We needed some money to buy equipment. I borrowed from my dad 25,000, and we started 25,000 rands, not dollars, in case you are from another country. So 25,000 rands, and we started. But I also did my market research, which I know is one of your questions. It wasn't just my passion. It was my passion plus what is needed in the industry. So think about 3 circles here, right? Think of a Venn diagram with 3 circles. Circle 1, 2, 3. Circle 1 is what is my passion? Okay, I'm passionate about this. It makes it easier. So passion, knowledge, skills, I had that. So that part was taken care of. The second was, what is the market need, right? Is there a need for this in the market? I did my research, and lo and behold, yes, there was a need. And thirdly, what is it viable for me? Do I have the resources to get started? Now, for example, and I'll give you something ridiculous. If I wanted to come up with a competitor to the Apple iPhone, which might have been a good idea, and there might be a market for it, but I don't have the resources, not here in South Africa anyways, right? But when I looked at this type of business, my passion, basically passion, knowledge, skills the market need and the viability, everything clicked. And that's why I got what I got in this business. But you raised a good point there, that for those of you who are thinking about getting into a business that is related to your passion, remember, your passion is going to form maybe 10-15% of what you do, right? Because the moment I started, I realized that I'm not teaching code all the time. There's so much else to do. You have to market your business. You have to sit and talk to customers. You have to answer their questions. You have to deal with issues. You have to do budgeting, financing, taxes, accreditation, paperwork. There's a lot of that, right? Initially, it was me doing all that. Now I've built up a team that handles a lot of that, like finance. I don't do. We've got our accountant doing all of that, sales, UI in that, academics. We've got Talha handling that. So there's it. There was a sort of separation of all this, but initially it was all me. So don't delude yourself into thinking that you're going to just be doing what you love to do all the time. If you're a painter, you're a coder, it's not like that. It's definitely not. Prepare for doing a lot more than what is your passion. But coming back to the passion, why does the passion count? Simple, because that passion is what makes it worth it ultimately. There are going to be challenges, and if you're passionate about it, I'm passionate about educating and empowering people. At the end of the day, whenever I place a student, that makes it all worth it. All the challenges makes it worth it. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That answers my question. But another question, you touched on it briefly about market research. And it's such a scary thing for me because you mentioned cupcakes, right? So I'll use that as an example. I make cupcakes. I decide my cupcakes are good. I want to get into business, so I start making cupcakes, right? And when I get into the industry, I realize that I am a very small fish in a very, very big tank, and there's a lot bigger fish out there. And I all of a sudden become overwhelmed because I neglected to do market research and say, hey, there isn't much demand for this right now. But at the same time, market research sounds very complicated. It sounds very expensive. It sounds time consuming, and it's more or less out of reach for a lot of people, in my opinion. How would you recommend we go about doing market research as entrepreneurs?
No, you are definitely not on the right track there. It's not market research first and foremost. Let me tell you what it's not. It's not something that is expensive or something that is complicated. It's something that is fairly simple. Well, it can be as complicated as you want it to be, but for a small startup business, you don't need to do anything expensive or very complex. Basically, what exactly is market research? Market research is asking yourself the question, is there a market for my product or service? Is there somebody out there who is going to pay for this? That's all. Who needs this and is willing to pay for it, right? And you set out answering that question, and so now as an offshoot of that question, you first have to understand, right? You got cupcakes. Who are you selling these cupcakes to? So that's the first question in market research, right? Who are you selling this to? Second, where do I find these people? Third, are they interested in this product? Fourth, what price will they pay for this? Now, all of this is your market research. Asking all these questions and finding answers. Now, how do you find the answers to them? Simple. The first one is, who is my customer? Just speak to people. And this is where most people get it wrong. They speak to people inside their own heads. They refuse to go out into the world. Now, see, you cannot run a business sitting in your bedroom or sitting in your little home office. You have to be out there when it comes to business. You have to be in the world out there because your answers are out there in the world. Your answers are not in your head. Your answers are not on ChatGPT. Your answers are not, on social media. Maybe to an extent on social media, and I'll come back to that. You need to be out there. You need to be networking with people. So if you want to sell cupcakes in your area, get to know people in your area. Go on WhatsApp, go on social media, ask the question. Ask them exactly what you want to know, right? For example, and it's best to be just honest. I'm starting in a business, doing cupcakes. I'm thinking of starting, and I have some samples, right? So you bake 2 dozen cupcakes. You do them, do them up exactly as you would sell them, and you invite people from your area and say, I need testers. But in order to get one, you're going to need to answer some questions, right?
Alright.
Do you like this? What do you think of it? Would you buy this? What reason would you buy it for? For home, for work, for a kid's party? Third, how much would you pay for this? See, there's your answers there. 2 dozen cupcakes, how much did it cost you? I don't know, maybe it cost you about $60 to make. But then you can ask 24 people for their valuable insight. Now you take all of that, you collate it, and you formulate your findings from there. And this is just one example,
Right.
since you used cupcakes. So it doesn't need to be that complicated. It can be very, very simple.
Simple as just asking people.
Just ask people what they want, and that's one of the key things, and we coming to that part. One of the key things about business is to always remain focused on your customers, not on yourself.
Alright.
Making sense, all of this? Is it making sense for you? Put your comments there. Ask your questions in the comments also, because I like this to be more of a conversation than usually it's just me, so that's more of a monologue, but Zax is here and he's not going to ask every question. So you ask your questions, put them in the comments, and I promise you I will answer those either in the comments or in a video also. I think we got time for one more question.
Okay, well, I'll keep it simple then. What are some actionable tips that people, myself included, can immediately start implementing as an entrepreneur?
Right. Number one, talk to your customers. Always keep your customers in mind, keep them front and center. Your business is going to succeed not because of your product. It's not going to succeed because of your talent. It's not going to succeed because you are so good with managing money or whatever it is. It's going to succeed because your customers are going to make you succeed. So they are the core and the focus of your business. In fact, they are after your family, they are the most important people in your life. So always focus on them and their needs. And the best way to do this is to be in constant touch with them. That's why we have a webinar every Wednesday for all our students. It's for them to come, interact with me, talk to me, find a platform where they can openly talk about whatever their suggestions and issues are.
Right.
So always talk to your customers and keep them front and center. In fact, that's the biggest part of market research, as we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Second, look after your money. Your business's money and your money are not the same. Your business is not your piggy bank. Don't treat your business like it's your piggy bank where you can take out how much you want. You saw a little money, got a few bobs here and there, and then you want to go wild spending, go on holidays. Don't do that. You take a salary out of your business. Make a budget, take a salary, that's it. And as the business grows, you can increase your salary. Hold yourself accountable. Remember, it's your business. No one is going to tell you yes or no. Now, a lot of people come up to me and say, well, I've run out of cash. And then when I look at their books, I see they drew more than their business could manage. They bought an SUV and then they bought another house and then they bought their mama house and they went on overseas holidays, and then what did they do? They drained their businesses. So that's the second thing. Look after your money. And third thing is network. Just keep networking. Just be out there as much as possible. Don't underestimate the value of meeting one person, because that one person could change your life. That one person could make all the difference to you and to your business. I've experienced that over and over again. So keep networking. Trade fairs, go. Expos, go. Business networking, go. Meet people, because you don't know which person is going to make all the difference. So for example, your cupcake business, you meet someone in a trade fair, and that maybe you meet a kid, right? And the kid likes it, and the kid goes home and says, Dad, isn't you having this office party? I know the ideal thing for you. These guys' cupcakes are so good, and then that guy invites you to come and sell your cupcakes at his office party, and then he talks to another business and another and another,
Right.
and there's a domino effect. So keep those 5 things in mind. So with that, it's a wrap. But remember, I'm always here. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I will share my socials in the description of this video. Reach out to me on TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever you want. I'm all over the place. And I will also share my email address. So ask away. And remember, I'm running my business startup bootcamp. And if you want to take this deeper, you want to take your understanding of business deeper, if you've got a business idea, stop thinking, just start doing. Join my bootcamp and I'll show you how to get started. Cool. Thanks a lot, Zax.
Pleasure.